Have you ever wondered, can they feel your thoughts, even when there's no contact? Can your imagination reach them across miles, across silence, across time itself? Tonight, you'll discover the secret, the power of telepathic sleep affirmations that work overnight. For what you assume in the silence of night is born into the light of morning. I remember a time when I was separated from someone I loved deeply. There was no contact, no letters, no calls, no chance meeting on the street. Yet within me burned the quiet, knowing that separation was only an illusion. One night I decided to test the truth I had long taught, that consciousness is the only reality. As I lay down to sleep, I entered that sacred inner world where imagination creates and reshapes all things. I stilled my body, quieted my thoughts, and let my heart whisper the words I longed to hear from them. I imagined their presence beside me, the warmth of their breath, the gentle tone of their voice saying, "I love you, I've been thinking of you." I felt it so vividly that my body responded as if it were real. I fell asleep in that assumption, in that feeling of the wish fulfilled. And when morning came, oh, how marvelous the ways of consciousness! A message arrived out of the blue, breaking the silence that had stretched for months. It was not chance, it was law, for the outer world always mirrors the inner one. This, my friends, is the essence of no-contact manifestation. To assume the feeling of reunion while the world still says separation. It is the sleep technique that dissolves distance, the telepathic bridge between two souls. When you sleep in the conviction that you are already united, your SP feels it. For imagination, sustained in feeling, transcends all physical barriers. Now listen carefully, this is not begging or yearning, this is knowing. When you pray, you do not plead. You assume, you become, you embody the end. Let your last thought before sleep be the gentle inner conversation where you hear their voice, feel their love, and rest in the satisfaction that it is done. Have you ever wondered why you can feel someone thinking of you, even before they call? Why a sudden wave of warmth, or a quiet inner nudge, can fill you with the awareness of their presence? Though they are miles away, that is not coincidence. It is the silent movement of consciousness, the living thread that connects all beings. There is no separation except that which you believe into being. The body may rest in one place, but the mind, the imagination, is boundless. It travels without limit, touching the heart of another in an instant. When one understands that imagination is the true contact, the idea of distance becomes a dream, a shadow on the wall of the mind. Everything you perceive, every person, every event, lives first in consciousness. You cannot meet another outside the realm of awareness, for all that you encounter is but a reflection of your own inner assumption. To believe in separation is to deny your creative power. To know unity is to awaken to the truth that the only communication that ever truly exists is the silent communion of imagination. In the silence of night, when the mind drifts between waking and sleep, the veil between worlds grows thin. It is here in that sacred twilight that imagination speaks in its purest language. When you enter that state deliberately, you can send your thoughts, your feelings, and your love across any distance. This is not fantasy, it is law. For imagination is spirit in motion, the creative essence of being. What you hold in vivid feeling within is impressed upon the infinite subconscious, and the one you think of, being also part of that same consciousness, receives it. Imagine for a moment that the one you love stands before you. You do not see them as a memory or a hope, but as present now. You feel the atmosphere change, the air thickens with reality. You can hear their breathing, sense the rhythm of their heart, see the light in their eyes. As you hold this scene with intensity and conviction, you are not merely daydreaming, you are forming a living connection. The image you sustain is not confined to your mind, it radiates outward, clothed in feeling, and travels to its destination. If you could see the world of imagination as vividly as the world of matter, you would understand that thought is not confined to the skull, nor emotion to the chest. Every feeling you sustain is an energy wave, and it moves through consciousness like ripples upon water. When you send love, love travels. When you send fear, fear travels. When you affirm unity, unity is felt. The substance of reality bends itself to the dominant impression impressed upon the mind. Those who believe that communication ends when words fall silent live half awake, for true speech is not in the mouth, but in the heart. The inner voice speaks continually, and that voice is always heard by the one toward whom it is directed. This is why resentment, worry, and doubt so often return to us clothed as conflict, silence, or confusion. The world does not echo our spoken prayers alone. It mirrors our inner assumptions. To master imagination is to master relationship itself, for you are forever in relationship with the ideas you hold as true. In this understanding, there is no such thing as no contact. You may not see them, you may not hear them, but if you think of them, you have already reached them. Thought is touch, feeling is presence, the inner image is the meeting place. To imagine lovingly is to visit them in consciousness. To persist in love is to dwell with them in spirit. When you send forth a thought of harmony and union, you are building the bridge upon which physical reunion must walk. When you close your eyes tonight, you need not seek a message or a sign. You need only rest in the awareness that you are one with the one you love. See them not as absent but as here, beside you, whole, alive, and receptive. Let your mind be still, and let love speak silently. In that quiet space, the soul understands what words cannot express. You are not reaching out through empty air. You are entering the shared field of imagination, where all things are connected. Do not strive to make it happen. Do not wonder how the message will be received. The how is never your concern. You are to feel the reality within, and the world will echo it without. When the inner state of union is sustained long enough, the outer world must mirror it in form. The phone call, the message, the chance encounter, these are only the visible expressions of the invisible act already complete. If you truly grasp that imagination is the only contact, then every sense of waiting dissolves. You no longer say, "When will they reach out?" For you know that they already have. Within consciousness, the true realm of cause, you begin to walk in a peace that does not depend on appearances, for you live from the unseen, not toward it. You become as one who has already received, and that feeling of fulfillment becomes the magnet drawing its likeness into view. Remember, every image impressed upon the imagination in the feeling of reality sets creative power in motion. When you imagine lovingly, you do not force another to act against their will. You awaken within them the aspect of themselves that resonates with your vision. You do not control, you commune. For there is only one consciousness expressing in countless forms, and what you accept as true of another, you call forth in them. Therefore, tonight and every night, make imagination your truest contact. When the world says, "They are far away," answer quietly within, "They live in me." When the senses say, "There is silence," feel instead the living dialogue of spirit. For it is not the eyes that see reality, it is the imagination that gives it life. Distance, time, silence, these are but shadows in the greater light of consciousness. The moment you turn inward, you are already there. There comes a sacred hour each night when the clamor of the world grows still, and the mind stands at the doorway between waking and dream. In that quiet interval, when thought drifts between consciousness and sleep, you stand before the most powerful creative force known to man, the subconscious mind. It is the silent builder, the tireless servant, and the womb of all manifestation. What you impress upon it at the edge of sleep becomes the blueprint of tomorrow's experience. Sleep, therefore, is not a simple rest of the body. It is the gateway through which new realities enter the world of form. Most people enter sleep burdened with the noise of the day. Worry, regret, longing, fear. They rehearse failure instead of fulfillment, lack instead of love, and then wonder why the next day is but a repetition of the last. They do not understand that the subconscious is always awake, always listening, always creating according to the pattern received. When the conscious mind grows quiet, the guard is lowered, and the seeds planted in imagination are taken as fact. The subconscious does not reason, it accepts. It takes what you feel as true and moves heaven and earth to express it. To use sleep consciously is to recognize that every night you are reborn into your own creation. The final thought before sleep is the command to the unseen. If you sleep in fear, fear becomes flesh. If you sleep in faith, faith clothes itself in visible form. The ancient law is simple as within, so without. The last emotion felt in the fading moments of awareness is the seed from which the coming day will spring. Therefore, you must make the passage into sleep a sacred act, a rehearsal of the life you desire. When you close your eyes, do not carry with you the heaviness of what is. Lay down the old identity as one removes a garment. The body grows still, but you remain the living consciousness within. Gently begin to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Let the mind imagine the scene that would follow the realization of your desire. If it is love, feel the warmth of their embrace. If it is success, feel the thrill of accomplishment. If it is peace, let stillness wash through every fiber of your being. Do not merely think of it. Feel it. Imagination must be united with emotion, for it is feeling that impresses the subconscious. There is a rhythm to this practice, as natural as breathing. With each exhale you release the day. With each inhale you draw in the new reality. The senses may whisper, "It is not real," but the heart replies, "It is done." Hold that conviction as you drift into the silence of sleep. The mind may wander, gently bring it back, again and again, to the scene of fulfillment. The moment drowsiness deepens, the conscious effort fades, and what remains is the living image impressed upon the depths. That image, accepted by the subconscious, becomes law. Do not underestimate the power of this state. The mind between waking and sleep is not idle. It is most receptive, most fertile. It is the field where every word and picture takes root. What is planted there returns multiplied. You may not see immediate change, for the unseen must first organize itself, but the law is certain. Every assumption sustained until sleep must externalize itself in due time. The dream you fall asleep in is the life you awaken to. There is an art to preparing for this sacred moment. The day should end as you wish the next to begin. Turn from the world of appearances and attend to the inner world of cause. Withdraw attention from everything contrary to your desire. Forgive all, release all, and dwell only upon what is lovely. Gratitude opens the door to acceptance. As you relax into the pillow, let thankfulness fill your being, not for what you hope to receive, but for what already is in consciousness. The feeling of completion is the key that locks the gate behind you and opens the one before you. Some will say, "But I cannot control my thoughts before sleep." And that is true if you attempt to wrestle the mind by force. The secret is not struggle but substitution. You cannot stop thinking, but you can choose what to think of. When the mind drifts to worry, gently replace the image with its opposite. If you fear loss, imagine possession. If you feel lonely, imagine togetherness. Do not battle the shadow, turn toward the light. The subconscious takes your dominant impression, not the fleeting doubts. When this practice becomes habit, sleep transforms from unconscious rest to conscious creation. Each night becomes an act of faith, a silent declaration of being. You begin to understand that nothing is impossible, for the creative power is not limited by circumstance or distance. In that deep stillness, the walls of time collapse, and what you assume as real now begins its journey into appearance. You do not need to know the method, for the subconscious knows always. Your part is only to feel and believe. Consider that all great changes, all inventions, all reconciliations of love have first been born in the invisible. The poet, the scientist, the lover, each has touched that same state, that borderland between sleep and waking, where imagination reigns supreme. There they saw, felt, and lived the end long before the senses could confirm it. The world calls it dream, the wise know it as creation. So when you retire tonight, do not merely fall asleep and enter sleep. Step into it as you would a temple. Let go of the outer self and merge with the reality you choose to express. Whisper softly within, "It is done. I am." Feel the peace of fulfillment as you surrender to the silence. When you awaken, you may find the world unchanged, but within you, something has shifted. That inner transformation is the seed, and its fruit cannot fail to appear. Sleep, then, is not the end of activity, it is the beginning of manifestation. Every night you write the script of your tomorrows, not with words, but with feeling. Guard the threshold of sleep as the holiest of hours, for there, in the quiet surrender of mind and body, The unseen power accepts your word as law and begins its perfect work. When two minds are bound by the invisible thread of love or desire, distance becomes a whisper and silence becomes the language of connection. Thought itself is movement, and feeling gives it direction. Every emotion carries vibration, every mental image radiates power. When you think of your specific person with feeling, you are not merely remembering, you are transmitting. The thought clothed in emotion travels through the unseen world and touches the consciousness of the one you think of. What you sustain in imagination is not lost in the air. It is received by the very being to whom it is directed. To understand this, one must see beyond the body and recognize consciousness as the one true medium of communication. All minds are part of one mind. Each thought you hold within awareness sends ripples through this ocean of consciousness, and those ripples reach every shore. When you lie down at night and repeat sleep affirmations toward your specific person, you are not talking to the air, you are speaking into the shared field of consciousness, where they too exist. The words are only symbols. It is the feeling behind the words that gives them life and draws them across the unseen bridge between souls. This is why many whisper their affirmations as they drift to sleep. At that moment, the conscious mind relaxes, and the gate to the subconscious opens wide. The affirmations you speak are not merely sounds, they are seeds of energy wrapped in emotion. If spoken with calm certainty, they sink deep into the mind's fertile soil. The feeling you generate, love, peace, reunion, joy, becomes the substance that travels through consciousness to your SP. It is not the repetition of words that works the wonder, but the sustained emotional conviction that what you declare is already true. Imagine, as you prepare for sleep, that you are surrounded by quiet and soft darkness. The breath slows, the body grows light. You close your eyes and begin to speak inwardly. You might say, "You love me. You are thinking of me. We are one in love." You do not say these words as though begging for proof, but as one recalling an eternal truth. Each repetition is a heartbeat of the soul, sending warmth and assurance outward. The moment you feel that sweet sense of connection, that quiet certainty that they can feel you, the communication is complete. Telepathic contact is not the manipulation of another's mind. It is the recognition of unity. The moment you separate yourself in thought from the one you desire, you create a barrier that only faith can dissolve. But when you see them as part of your own consciousness, when you affirm that you and they are one in love, harmony, and thought, the message flows effortlessly. The feeling of oneness is the channel through which your affirmation travels. Each affirmation is a living thing. The emotion breathed into it determines its strength. Words repeated mechanically are like stones thrown into a dry well. They make a sound and fall to silence. But words spoken from the heart are like raindrops falling into the ocean. They merge, expand, and reach every shore. When you speak to your SP in thought, the tone of your feeling is the power that carries your message. Love travels swiftly, fear travels slowly, and doubt halts the flow altogether. Therefore, speak from love and certainty, not longing or lack. At times, one may feel that nothing is happening, that the silence remains unbroken. Yet in the unseen world, the message has already been delivered. The subconscious of every being responds to the impressions made upon it. When your words are filled with love and conviction, they stir the corresponding feeling within your SP. They may not consciously know why they suddenly think of you, why a gentle warmth moves through them, or why the urge to reach out grows stronger. But it is because the energy of your thought has touched them. Many have proved this through simple experience. They practiced nightly, entering sleep with words of love and unity on their lips. They spoke inwardly as if their SP could hear them. And they did. Days or weeks later, the message was returned through dreams, through unexpected contact, through the quiet knowing in the heart that the connection was alive. What you project in imagination must be mirrored back, for consciousness is one continuous whole. The moment you claim contact within, outer contact begins to take shape. Let each night become a sacred communion. Instead of dwelling on absence, dwell on union. Instead of lamenting the silence, fill it with inner conversation. Whisper their name with tenderness, feel the nearness of their presence, and affirm that love flows freely between you. Do not force the emotion. Allow it to rise naturally as you remember how it feels to be loved, to be chosen, to be secure. As you sink into drowsiness, your affirmations become living impressions that the subconscious delivers faithfully. When the body rests, consciousness does not sleep. The mind continues to move, to imagine, to create. The affirmations impressed upon it during this transition from waking to sleep are taken as commands. They begin to shape dreams, intuitions, impulses, and events. You may awaken to find that your SP has reached out unexpectedly, or that you feel an unshakable peace about them. These are signs that the telepathic link is active, that the emotional energy you sent has been received. This practice requires sincerity rather than strain. Do not repeat your affirmations as if trying to convince the universe. Instead, speak them as one speaking truth. The more you embody the feeling that the message is already delivered, the more effortlessly it moves through the unseen. The subconscious obeys the feeling of certainty, not the words of effort. Speak quietly, believe deeply, and then rest. Remember that telepathy is not a rare gift but a natural function of consciousness. Every thought is energy, every feeling is vibration. To use affirmations in sleep is to direct this power with awareness. It is to choose deliberately the message you wish to send and to wrap it in the emotion that ensures its safe delivery. In doing so, you become not a seeker of contact but the source of it, not one who waits to receive love but one who radiates it. So tonight, when you close your eyes, do not think of distance or silence. Think of unity. Let each affirmation be a gentle current of love flowing outward. Feel it reach your SP and return multiplied. Know that the invisible world hears every word and feels every pulse of emotion. For the truth is simple: what you feel with conviction in the silence of sleep, another feels in the depths of their being. And that shared vibration, born of imagination and love, reshapes the world you both awaken to. Everything begins and ends in feeling. Thought may set the direction, but feeling is the power that moves the invisible currents of life. What you feel deeply and consistently, the world must express in form. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are aware of being. The secret, then, is not to wish for reunion, but to feel it has already accomplished. Longing looks outward and says, "It is not yet mine." Faith looks inward and whispers, "It is done." One keeps the desire forever distant, the other calls it near and makes it flesh. The heart is the center of creation. Every emotion sends out a vibration, and that vibration shapes the pattern of events. When you desire reunion with your specific person, the first impulse is to look at what is missing: the silence, the distance, the absence. You think of what you do not have, and that very feeling of lack becomes the signal you broadcast. The outer world obediently mirrors it back, giving you more of the same. But when you shift from wanting to being, from longing to fulfillment, the entire field of your consciousness changes. Imagine the difference between reaching for love and resting in love. The first is struggle, the second is knowing. To assume the emotion of reunion is to step into the state where the wish is already fulfilled. You no longer act as one seeking, but as one remembering. The mind may say, "But it has not yet happened." And yet the heart knows that in consciousness, all things are present. The world outside is only a delayed reflection of the world within. The feeling of having is the seed, physical manifestation is the harvest. To practice this truth, you must understand that emotion is creative substance. Every feeling you sustain impresses the subconscious, and the subconscious builds according to its nature. If you feel separation, it constructs circumstances that reflect separation. If you feel reunion, it arranges the threads of life to weave that experience. Therefore, guard your feelings more carefully than your words, for words without feeling are empty, but feeling without words is power. When you go to sleep at night, let your final act be the assumption of the fulfilled desire. Close your eyes and feel the warmth of their presence beside you. Hear the tone of their voice saying the words you long to hear. Do not think of the past, nor question the how. Simply rest in the joy of it being real now. The body may lie in an empty room, but the imagination must dwell in union. You are not pretending. You are training the mind to accept a higher truth. that consciousness alone determines experience. It is not the repetition of affirmations that brings the result, but the feeling they awaken. You could whisper, "We are together, we are in love," 1,000 times, yet if the heart feels absence, the words fall hollow. But speak it once with conviction, once with the emotion of completion, and the subconscious accepts it as fact. That one feeling, deeply held, outweighs 1,000 words of doubt. Feeling is the language of the unseen. The universe does not hear your pleas, it responds to your vibration. Consider a simple example. If you were told you would receive a gift tomorrow, and you believed it completely, how would you feel now? You would not anxiously wait. You would relax in anticipation. The joy would already be present, though the gift has not yet arrived. That is the emotion of reunion. You rest in certainty, not desire. You feel the result before the evidence appears. This inner satisfaction is the key. It dissolves resistance and allows the subconscious to do its perfect work. The greatest mistake is to confuse imagining with hoping. Hope looks toward the future, imagination lives in the now. To imagine properly is to feel the end as present. You do not wait for a miracle, you become it. Each time you enter that feeling of unity, even for a moment, you plant a seed in the unseen that must grow into expression. Do not dig it up with doubt, let it unfold in its own season. The law is absolute. What you feel as real becomes real. Many say, "But how can I feel something that is not yet true?" The answer lies in your ability to assume. The imagination is the bridge between what is and what will be. To assume the feeling of reunion is not to deny your senses, but to give higher allegiance to the unseen reality of consciousness. You close your eyes to the world and open them within. You say quietly, "This is how it feels to be loved again, to be chosen, to be secure." You dwell in that state until it feels natural, and the world will conform to that inner naturalness. Each time you practice, the emotion grows stronger. At first it may feel like pretense, but persist until it becomes genuine. The subconscious cannot distinguish between an imagined feeling and a physical one. It accepts both as real. Therefore, the emotion of reunion, even if born in imagination, becomes the mold into which life pours itself. The one you love will feel the shift, perhaps without knowing why, for consciousness communicates beneath words and across distance. Let your daily discipline be the cultivation of this inner assurance. Whenever thoughts of doubt arise, gently replace them with the remembrance of union. Say inwardly, "All is well, it is already done." Breathe the emotion of completion until it fills your being. The feeling of having overrides the illusion of lack. It lifts you above effort and draws circumstances that mirror your inner state. You do not chase love, you radiate it. You do not beg for connection, you embody it. When this understanding becomes living truth, your entire outlook changes. You stop asking, "When will it happen?" and begin affirming, "It is happening now." You cease trying to make something occur and instead allow it to unfold naturally. The energy of longing is replaced by the peace of fulfillment. This is the highest form of faith. To feel the end while the evidence still denies it. It is to trust that the unseen world is more real than the visible, that what you claim in feeling must sooner or later appear in form. Feeling, then, is not a fleeting emotion, but the creative core of being. To assume the emotion of reunion is to align yourself with the finished act. To indulge in longing is to bind yourself to delay. The difference is subtle but profound. One declares, "I am." The other confesses, "I am not." Choose carefully the one you entertain, for life listens and responds to the tone of your heart. Every word you speak within yourself is a seed cast into the fertile soil of the subconscious mind. The outer world is but the harvest of these inner conversations. What you repeatedly say in silence becomes the pattern through which life expresses itself. When you understand that the unseen dialogue within your own mind is the true cause of experience, you begin to speak inwardly with purpose, with tenderness, and with authority. The voice you use in imagination is not idle, it is creative. It shapes the emotions, directs the energy, and establishes the conditions that later appear in the world of form. There is no such thing as a thought that goes unheard. Every mental word vibrates through the field of consciousness, and that field is shared by all. You do not speak to yourself alone. you speak into the living substance of reality. The one you call your specific person is not outside this field. They exist within it, moving through the same ocean of consciousness that you do. Therefore, the words you speak inwardly about them, to them and for them, are received and felt at levels deeper than physical hearing. You have never truly been apart, for the inner conversation is the invisible bridge that keeps you forever connected. Many live unaware of this sacred power. They rehearse arguments, doubts, and disappointments in the privacy of thought, not realizing that these inner dramas are the molds of outer experience. They think bitterly, "They don't care for me," and then wonder why coldness appears in their reality. They imagine rejection, and the world mirrors rejection back. The law is impartial. It brings forth exactly what you sustain within. To change another's behavior, you must first change your inner dialogue about them. Speak lovingly to them in thought, and you will awaken love. Speak resentfully, and you will stir the echo of resentment. Consciousness is one continuous conversation. You are both speaker and listener, sender and receiver. To use this power wisely, become aware of the tone of your inner speech. Every tone carries energy. Anger vibrates sharply and repels. Love flows gently and attracts. When you catch yourself arguing inwardly, stop and ask, "Is this the conversation I want to be made flesh?" If not, replace it immediately with its opposite. Speak as you would if harmony were already restored. Instead of, "Why haven't you called?" say within, "It's so good to hear from you again." Instead of, "They don't think of me," say, "We are always in each other's thoughts." The subconscious accepts these statements as present facts, and the outer world rearranges to confirm them. In the quiet of night, before sleep takes hold, this practice becomes most powerful. The conscious mind relaxes, and the inner voice speaks directly to the depths. Imagine your SP standing before you, not as a memory or a hope, but as a living presence. Look into their imagined eyes and speak the words you long to hear. Hear them responding in kind. Let the dialogue flow naturally, as though you were conversing in person. Feel the warmth, the laughter, the understanding. What begins as imagination becomes an emotional reality. An emotion is the language of creation. Do not mistake this for fantasy. The unseen world is more real than the visible, and all that appears in time first existed in consciousness. The inner conversation is rehearsal only to the unawakened mind. To the one who understands, it is creation itself. Every time you engage in a loving dialogue within, you strengthen the invisible bond between you and your SP. They may not consciously hear the words, yet they will feel the vibration. Perhaps they will dream of you, or wake with a sudden thought of your name. Perhaps an impulse to reach out will rise unbidden within them. These are not coincidences, they are the echoes of your inner voice traveling through the shared medium of mind. When you begin to practice this deliberately, consistency is key. The outer world may not change at once, but persist. The old inner conversations, repeated over time, have built strong patterns, and they will continue to echo until replaced by new ones. Speak the new truth often and with feeling. If doubt arises, do not wrestle with it. Simply return to your chosen dialogue. The power is in the repetition of conviction. Each time you affirm love, unity, and understanding, you weaken the memory of separation. Gradually, the new tone becomes natural, and the outer world must respond in kind. Notice how the atmosphere of your day reflects the quality of your inner speech. When you think kindly, the world smiles back. When you dwell in irritation, others seem to mirror that vibration. Life is not happening to you, it is responding to you. Every word spoken within shapes the character of the day. This is why awareness of inner speech is the beginning of mastery. Once you understand that your thoughts are not private but creative, you choose them carefully. You speak inwardly as one who knows that each statement is a command to the unseen. If you desire reunion, speak from the end. Engage your SP in a mental conversation that would take place after reconciliation. Hear yourself saying, "I'm so glad we worked through everything," and hear them reply, "I never stopped caring." Feel the relief, the peace, the warmth of completion. Rest in that feeling until it becomes vivid. The subconscious, accepting it as true, will move circumstances to bring it to pass. The world must always conform to the tone of your inner dialogue. You may notice that certain phrases repeat themselves throughout the day. These are your habitual inner statements. Change them, and you change your life. Turn "nothing ever works out for me" into "everything is unfolding perfectly." Replace "they don't think of me" with "they love me deeply." The difference may seem small, but in the world of consciousness, it is everything. The subconscious takes your word as law, and the universe arranges itself around your dominant feeling. So guard your inner conversations as treasures. They are not idle talk, they are the shaping tools of destiny. Every loving word spoken inwardly builds a bridge between you and your SP, and through that bridge flows understanding, attraction, and renewal. The world outside will eventually echo the harmony you create within. When you speak silently with love, you send forth invisible messengers carrying that vibration, and they never return empty-handed. The one you love will feel it, for you are not two minds but one, communicating through the eternal language of feeling and thought. The outer world is a shadow cast by the inner state of consciousness. It is not cause but effect. To live as a master of life, one must reverse the order of belief, to cease reacting to appearances and begin assuming from within. The great law that governs all creation is simple: what you assume to be true, even if denied by your senses, will harden into fact. The law of assumption does not depend on time, distance, or visible evidence. It is as impartial as the law of gravity. Whether you believe it or not, it is always in operation, molding the outer world into the likeness of your inner conviction. Most people wait for proof before they believe, but in this waiting, they unknowingly delay their desire. They say, "When I see the result, then I'll believe," not realizing that belief is the power that produces the result. To assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled while all appearances contradict it is the test of faith. The senses will cry out that it is impossible, but the inner eye must remain fixed on the unseen reality. What you accept inwardly as real must eventually mirror itself outwardly. The world is an obedient mirror, reflecting faithfully the tone of your assumption. Every circumstance you encounter is the product of a state of consciousness previously entertained. You cannot escape this law any more than you can escape your own awareness. It is the silent, automatic principle that turns inner belief into external fact. The moment you assume a state and feel it as real, creation begins. The mechanism by which it unfolds may be hidden from view, but the result is certain. Even when everything around you appears contrary, the law is still at work, rearranging the unseen threads of life to conform to your assumption. This is why one must learn to walk by faith and not by sight. The senses show the world as it was, not as it is becoming. They are the evidence of the past, not the prophecy of the future. When you look to them for assurance, you become bound to the old state you wish to escape. The secret is to remain loyal to the unseen reality, the state imagined, felt, and accepted within. It is easy to believe when all is favorable. It is mastery to believe when nothing yet supports your vision. The outer condition will bend to your faith as surely as the tide obeys the moon. Consider how a gardener plants a seed. He does not demand immediate proof from the soil. He knows that beneath the surface, invisible forces are at work. So it is with the law of assumption. Once you have planted the seed of conviction in consciousness, your task is not to dig it up with doubt, but to nourish it with feeling. Feel the reality of your desire as though it were already so, and the unseen will move to fulfill it. The time between planting and harvest may vary, but the law is unfailing. What is assumed persists until it becomes fact. Many sabotage their creations by observing the outer world and calling it truth. They say, "But nothing has changed," forgetting that the outer world is but the echo of an old vibration. The new assumption, freshly planted, is already reshaping it. Every moment you persist in the feeling of fulfillment, you weaken the hold of the old state. The transformation begins within long before it can be detected without. Faith is patience clothed in certainty, the quiet knowing that the unseen must appear in its appointed hour. To assume effectively, you must learn the art of inner conviction. This is not mere thinking, it is feeling. The law does not respond to idle thought, but to emotion impregnated with belief. When you assume, you do not say, I hope this will happen. You say, it is happening now. You feel the satisfaction, the peace, the gratitude of the accomplished fact. The mind may whisper doubt, but the heart affirms certainty. Each time you return to that feeling, you deepen the impression on the subconscious, and the outer world moves closer to your vision. Visible circumstances are powerless in themselves. They are effects, not causes. To fear them is to give life to the illusion. When you realize that the same power which created the universe lives within your consciousness, appearances lose their authority. You no longer ask the world's permission to be happy, loved, or successful. You claim it inwardly and let the law do its perfect work. If the senses contradict, you smile inwardly, knowing they must soon yield. The law of assumption never fails. It simply waits for the inner command of conviction. When you find yourself confronted by difficulty, do not struggle with it in the outer world. Withdraw attention from the problem and assume the feeling of the solved state. If you are lonely, assume companionship. If you are ill, assume health. If you are poor, assume abundance. The law does not distinguish between large and small desires. It mirrors whatever you hold as true. The moment the new state feels natural, the transformation is complete within, and the outer must reflect it. The imagination is the workshop of this law. There you craft the scenes and feelings of the desired state until they become alive. You do not beg or plead, you accept. You live inwardly in the end, and the end calls forth its means. The law has infinite resources and endless methods to bring about your assumption. You need not devise the plan, only feel the result. Leave the manner of its expression to the wisdom that governs all creation. Remember always that the law of assumption is impersonal. It is neither moral nor immoral, it simply responds. The one who assumes failure receives it just as faithfully as the one who assumes success. The universe makes no distinction. It reflects belief. Therefore, discipline your mind to dwell only upon that which you wish to see expressed. Guard your assumptions as you would guard treasure, for they are the blueprints of your future. When you grasp this truth, you cease being a victim of circumstance. You understand that life is not happening to you. It is happening through you. Every event, every meeting, every coincidence is the outer echo of an inner assumption. You no longer plead for change, you create it. You cease looking for signs, for you know the greatest sign is the feeling itself. The instant you feel it real, the process is complete. The rest is simply the unfolding of the inevitable. Thus, whether the sky is bright or stormy, the law remains unchanged. Visible circumstances are powerless before the certainty of assumption. The moment you dare to feel your desire fulfilled, the unseen begins its perfect work, and the world must, in time, conform to the image held in the heart. Faith is not blind hope, nor is it the trembling wish that something might one day happen. Faith is the quiet certainty that what you have accepted within as true already exists in the unseen, awaiting only its appointed hour to appear. To sleep in the end is to make this certainty your dwelling place. To close your eyes each night not as one waiting, but as one fulfilled. When the mind can rest in the assurance of accomplishment, rather than the struggle of desire, creation is complete. The world must eventually echo what has been claimed in feeling. There is a sacred rhythm to faith. It is not restless, it is not filled with anxious questions about how or when. It moves with stillness and authority, knowing that the unseen is the source of all that is seen. When you sleep in the end, you shift from striving to being. You no longer reach for your desire as something outside yourself. You become it in consciousness, and by becoming, you create. The invisible law responds to the tone of your inner conviction, not to your outward effort. The state you rest in before sleep is the state that seeds your tomorrow. Most people pray from the state of wanting. They speak of lack, of need, of waiting for things to change. Their prayers are petitions that say, I am not yet what I desire to be. But the law of faith does not respond to want, it responds to acceptance. When you assume the end, when you feel the wish fulfilled, you declare silently, I am already that. The subconscious takes that feeling as fact and builds the outer world in its image. To sleep in this end is the highest form of faith, for it refuses to acknowledge any power outside the self. Imagine lying down at night, your body growing still, the day fading into silence. In that sacred interval between waking and sleep, you are the potter and your consciousness is the clay. Here you mold reality with feeling. If you desire love, you do not whisper to the darkness, "Bring me love someday." You feel the warmth of arms around you now. You hear the soft tone of a familiar voice speaking words of affection. You let that feeling sink so deeply that it becomes your final thought before sleep. The body sleeps, but consciousness carries that impression into the depths, and there it takes root. The law must bring it forth. Faith is not built upon evidence, it produces evidence. To demand proof before belief is to live in reverse. The one who understands the power of assumption knows that visible proof comes last. First comes the inner certainty, the emotional claim that says, "It is done." The senses may still show absence, but faith does not depend upon them. Faith knows that what is real within will soon cast its shadow in the world without. The unseen act of acceptance is the true cause. Visible results are the inevitable effect. To rest in the end is an act of divine confidence. It is to stand unmoved when appearances deny your truth. The world may say, "You are still alone," yet your heart says, "I am already loved." The world may whisper, "You are still in want," yet your inner being replies, "I am already supplied." This inner stance is not defiance, it is recognition. You are acknowledging the creative power within as the only reality. The moment you persist in that feeling, circumstances begin to shift, though the change may first be invisible. The law is exact. It must externalize what is accepted as true. The mind often rebels against this simplicity. It asks, "How can I believe when I see no sign?" But faith does not require signs. The very act of feeling it real is the sign. When a seed is planted, the soil does not reveal its hidden work. Yet the gardener sleeps in peace, knowing growth is certain. So it is with the heart that practices faith. You need not struggle or force results. Your rest is your power. The deeper your peace in the feeling of fulfillment, the swifter the unseen moves to bring it forth. In the practice of faith, imagination is your instrument. You enter the desired scene inwardly and live there as though it were the present moment. You see the faces, hear the voices, feel the atmosphere of completion. You let this inner experience become as vivid as the outer world. The senses may try to pull you back to what appears, but you remain loyal to what is felt. This loyalty is the essence of faith. You do not vacillate between belief and doubt. You rest. You do not waver between presence and absence. You abide in fulfillment. To sleep in the end requires surrender. The mind must release its need to control, its anxious grasping for evidence. True faith is effortless because it is certain. It is the quiet knowing that creation is already finished, and that consciousness only selects which aspect of it to experience. The moment you feel the wish fulfilled, that selection is made. The rest of life simply arranges itself to reflect your choice. Consider the simple truth that every dream begins as an assumption. The inventor dreams of the finished machine, not of the pieces scattered on the floor. The artist sees the completed painting before the brush ever touches the canvas. So too must you see the end within yourself. And more than see it, feel it. For the unseen world responds not to sight but to sensation. The feeling of what is done carries within it the vibration of completion, and completion attracts its likeness. If you practice this faithfully, you will notice a change in your demeanor. The restless striving fades, replaced by quiet joy. You stop counting the days and start living in the result. You no longer ask, "When will it come?" because you know it has already come in consciousness. You begin to speak, act, and move as one who already possesses. That subtle shift in attitude is the sign that the new state is established within. And as within, so without. Faith, then, is not an emotion of hope, but a condition of being. It is the inner rest that knows creation is complete. When you lie down at night, you carry the feeling of the wish fulfilled into sleep, as though it were the most natural thing in the world. You drift off, not in longing, but in possession. That sleep becomes sacred, for in it the subconscious accepts your conviction and sets the unseen into motion. The world will rise tomorrow and begin to reflect your inner rest. For to sleep in the end is to declare silently that there is no gap between desire and fulfillment, no distance between thought and manifestation, only the still, creative certainty that what you have felt as real must one day appear. Every night, as the body surrenders to rest, consciousness slips from the outer world of action into the inner world of cause. What you hold as true in that sacred interval between wakefulness and sleep becomes the seed planted in the fertile soil of the subconscious mind. There, beyond resistance, beyond doubt, the impressions of the day are fixed, and they shape the pattern of tomorrow. You may not see it with your eyes as you drift into slumber, but every image, every feeling you carry into the depths of sleep continues to live and move in the unseen. The subconscious is faithful beyond measure. It brings forth in form what is accepted in feeling. Before sleep, you stand at the doorway between two worlds, the conscious and the subconscious, the seen and the unseen. The conscious mind is the gardener, choosing which seeds to plant. The subconscious is the earth, accepting without question whatever is sown. If you go to sleep troubled, fearful, or filled with resentment, those emotions are accepted as the reality of your world. They take root, and the waking day must express their likeness. But if you end your day with faith, peace, and gratitude, the subconscious accepts that harmony as law, and the outer world becomes its reflection. The unseen has no will of its own. It acts upon what is impressed upon it. To use this truth consciously is to realize that sleep is not an end but a beginning. Each night is the birth of a new reality. The final emotion you feel, the last idea you hold as true before the curtain of sleep descends, becomes the blueprint for the coming day. This is why it is said that your assumption before sleep objectifies itself in waking life, because consciousness never sleeps. The body rests, but awareness continues its creative work in silence. It gathers all that you have accepted, all that you have felt as real, and weaves it into the fabric of experience. Many drift into sleep carrying with them the weight of worry. They rehearse the problems of the day, argue silently with absent people, or lament what has not yet appeared. They think these are harmless habits, unaware that every such feeling is a command to the subconscious. To complain inwardly is to decree that more of the same shall come. To dwell on absence is to instruct the unseen to continue its production of lack. The law cannot discern good from bad, it only gives form to belief. What you feel as true, you experience as fact. But imagine instead ending your day as a deliberate creator. Before your eyes close, you choose the state in which you wish to dwell. If your desire is love, you feel the warmth of it as though it were already yours. You see the scene that would follow its fulfillment. Perhaps a smile, a conversation, a gentle word. You hold that scene until it feels natural, until it replaces all doubt. Then you drift into sleep not as one hoping, but as one fulfilled. That state is impressed upon the subconscious and cannot be erased. In the invisible realm, your desire is already born, and in its own time, it will rise into the light of day. The process is simple, yet profound. The key is emotional acceptance. The subconscious does not respond to empty words. It responds to feeling. To say, I am loved, while feeling lonely is to plant contradictory seeds. The emotion must match the statement. The feeling of, I am loved, must be felt so vividly that it overshadows all memory of isolation. When that feeling becomes dominant, the unseen takes it as a completed fact. It begins to draw to you people, situations, and events that harmonize with it. The outer world is compelled to reorganize itself around your new inner conviction. You may not see the change immediately, for creation begins in silence. Like the seed buried in the earth, it must gestate before it breaks through the soil. But the law is unfailing. The unseen never forgets what it has been impressed with. Your task is not to force results, but to remain faithful to the feeling that it is done. When the morning comes, carry with you the quiet assurance that what was accepted in sleep continues to unfold beneath the surface of appearances. Walk through the day as one who knows that the unseen is already working in your favor. Every transformation begins with a single inner acceptance. If you persist in imagining yourself healthy, loved, and fulfilled before sleep, those assumptions must manifest, because consciousness cannot contradict itself. The waking world is the mirror of the sleeping world. You may awaken to the same surroundings, but something within has changed. That inner change is the true beginning. In time, the outer scene must rearrange to mirror the new state accepted as real. This is the divine rhythm of creation, the invisible becoming visible, the assumed becoming seen. Practice this nightly. Make the moments before sleep your most sacred time. Withdraw attention from the outer world. It is only the echo of the past. Turn inward and live in the world of imagination. There you can create freely, independent of circumstance. Feel the joy of being already what you long to be. Let that joy carry you gently into slumber. As you sleep, your consciousness continues to dwell in that feeling, nourishing it, strengthening it, until it becomes established as your new reality. This discipline transforms ordinary rest into a spiritual act. No longer do you fall into sleep unconsciously, leaving the mind to wander through fears and memories. You enter sleep deliberately, as a creator entering the workshop of the divine. You mold the unseen substance of life with your thoughts and emotions, knowing that what you accept now must appear later. You may awaken to find no outward sign, yet something invisible has shifted. The law has received your command, and its fulfillment is certain. Understand that the interval between acceptance and appearance is not delay, it is gestation. Just as the child must grow unseen before birth, so too must your assumption mature in the invisible before it becomes visible. Doubt is the only force that can disturb this process. If you remain steadfast in feeling, if you fall asleep each night in the conviction that it is already done, the world will eventually conform. Each night you write the script of your tomorrows, not with ink, but with feeling. The world of form is the stage upon which those feelings play out. What you assume as true before you sleep becomes the scene you awaken to. Guard those moments carefully. They are the bridge between worlds. Rest not as one who dreams of what may be, but as one who knows what is. For consciousness is the only reality, and what is impressed upon it in the silence of night must unfold itself in the light of day. All that has been spoken leads to one eternal truth. Consciousness is the only reality. Every thought, every feeling, every assumption forms the invisible blueprint from which your world is built. The distance between desire and fulfillment is not measured in time or circumstance, but in awareness. When you learn to live inwardly as though the wish were already fulfilled, the unseen begins its perfect work, and the visible must yield. You are never a victim of the outer world, you are the author of it. The mind, disciplined in imagination, becomes the channel of divine power. When you feel the end as real, when you sleep in the state of accomplishment, when you speak lovingly in silence and assume harmony where discord once stood, the law responds unfailingly. Every scene of your life rearranges itself to mirror your inner conviction. So make imagination your dwelling place. Enter sleep each night as one who already possesses, not as one who waits. Speak inwardly with kindness, assume the best of all, and feel deeply the joy of completion. The world you know tomorrow will be born from the state you accept tonight. Faith is the bridge between the unseen and the seen, and feeling is the power that carries you across it. Rest, then, in the assurance that what you accept as true within must appear without. The universe is your mirror. It reflects the tone of your inner being. When you live as though it is done, the outer world will rise to confirm it. For creation is finished, and your only task is to awaken to the reality that all things are already yours.